Hello. Hi, this is Wilna, and I'm so excited. I finally got my jelly plate, and today I'm going to make artist trading cards by using a background of monoprinting using my jelly plate. So I think this is an exercise in showing you that I I don't know exactly what I'm doing. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that don't be afraid just to do it. And those of you who are very experienced with a jelly plate, I think you should just stop watching now because you're going to be screaming at this video the whole way through. Because basically, back to point number one, I don't know what I'm doing. But having said that, I had a lot of fun and it turned out great. And I'm so excited to try it again. And maybe I'll watch some tutorials online and see to get a better idea and hopefully change point number one. Okay, so I actually decided to start with green, and I'm just organizing my desk. I don't know why I'm so obsessive. Maybe it's just to make sure everything fits on the screen. I'm going to start with green and light green, and I'm just going to use a roller and spread it on the jelly plate, and it really works awesome, people. Oh my gosh, this is the most fun thing ever. So I just have a big roller, and maybe it's time to get a new one because in the past I never cleaned my rollers. I just let the paint dry. And then I remembered, oh yes, maybe I should just quickly prime my page. So illustrating point number one that I don't really know what I'm doing is prime your page first before you put the paint on the jelly plate because it might dry. That's why I'm just quickly priming it. No, I'm kidding. I'm just forwarding the video. So I just used gesso to prime my page with a card just to make it super thin, just to have a little protection against the media. And then you can see at the top of the page I cut some birds with my silhouette cameo. I did a print and cut, and then I used that cut file and just cut some blank paper with birds. So I have some white, just plain birds, and now I want to put them and use them as a mask. So right, first of all, I'm using a 12 by 18 watercolor paper. This is the base of my artist trading cards. I'm just going to do the background first. And this is also important because you get exactly 18 artist trading cards out of this 12 by 18 page. You can see the description you can see the link to the watercolor paper in the description. Right. So now I just added some fresh paint to my jelly plate because I don't want it to dry. And I also cut some leaves. You can see the colored leaves, but I also used the same lines just to cut plain paper leaves. And now I'm just going to press it down. So this is awesome. I loved how it worked. So my jelly plate is 8 by 10, so it's nice and big. You can see that I'm working off the edges because the artist trading cards is exactly 18 out of this page, so I have to work edge to edge, and that's fine. So just put some more paint on and just roll it out, and then we're going to make another print. Okay, so a few things here. I'm using Liquitex Basics acrylic paint, and it worked fantastic. Honestly, it's fantastic paint, and it worked great, and I loved it. And also I love the monoprinting. So what monoprinting does, it really layers the colors. And if you know me a little, you know that I love the layering idea. especially in my art journals. I just love it. So you clean your jelly plate with a baby wipe, and it's very easy to clean. And I'll probably clean it between every use because I really want it to last a long time. So I'm going to be gentle with it and not, leave paint on to dry, which is something that I actually usually do. So not this time though. I'm going to remember. Okay, so I just love this already. Like, this is like, yay, finally. And now I'm just going to be layering, put on more layers with the jelly plate and different textures and different transparencies as well. So that's something that I love. So one thing that I absolutely love about the Liquitex Basics is because it's not a very opaque paint. So it does have transparency, which means that the bottom layers shine through. In the very top of my video, you can see all those bunches of embellishments, and those are what I want to use as accents on my artist trading cards, but I'll talk about that more later. For now, I just want to do a lot of textures. I just want to experiment with the jelly plate. I've never used one, and this is my very first attempt, and I just want to see what it can do and where it will go. So this is a little roller with a texture on it. You can see there's a chevron, and I used this beautiful aqua color paint, and I'm just going to put it down and just press and just print it. So it didn't work great, and I think I've learned my lesson, but I love the mark making. So that was what I told myself when I started off with my jelly plate, because of course I'm nervous. I've never used one. I'm not gonna make a total fool of myself on my video. But then I said to myself, listen, even if you just make a bunch of marks that's transparent and see-through, then it's going to be fine. So this was an absolute experiment in mark making. And I also wanted to print this whole page, 12 by 18, on watercolor paper. And I wanted to do the whole page and use it as the background to my artist trading cards. So this is Hookah Green, which is a beautiful, beautiful green. And on this one, I'm going to just be drawing into the plate itself. It actually fell on the floor. Point number one, people. Point number one. And I'm I'm sorry. I'm just laughing. It's a true story. I mean, I can edit it out, but I just want to show you. Listen, if you did your first jelly plate and it's horrible, or whatever, then don't feel bad. Mine fell on the floor. I didn't take off the bottom acetate. I actually put it back on because I just want to protect the jelly plate. So it's very slippery. That's why. Okay, so now I'm drawing with the back of a paintbrush. I'm just drawing into the wet paint, and I'm just going to see how that prints. And it printed really good. So I'm just trying everything. I'm going to put a stencil on there. I'm going to just have fun. And that was my goal with this video, is to create a background and just make a lot of marks and layers and colors and just see what happens, So I think the correct way is actually to put the paper on the jelly plate, not the jelly plate on the paper, but my paint was a little wet. And that's one thing that I would suggest, is that you really maybe wait for your colors to dry. Because I think it would have been prettier, you would get the chevron totally smudged. You can see there in the middle. And but anyway, whatever, like I say, this is just experimenting and figuring it out and see what works and what doesn't work. So that's just where I'm at. Okay, so while this is drying, I just want to talk about the fact that I have a little digital kit that I actually made for my artist trading cards, and I thought, why not put it online? It's on sale now for $2.99, and you will find a lot of products in there. So there's a stencil. I'll show you the products in a second. But you can see the leaves at the top is in the kit, the digital kit. The feathers is in there, and the only thing that's not included is the birds and the florals, and that's in my spring kit, so you can get that. But yeah, here you can see. So I put a stencil in there, the leaves, the feathers. And, you can download it from iHeart Studio for $2.99. And I just love it. I love the little stencil. I think if you use your silhouette to cut it out, you will use it for a lot of projects. So I'm very excited for this stencil. And I'll probably be using it a lot more. I tried something here I just wanted to put the paint on my roller before I put it on my jelly plate. But in the end, it didn't work right. Like, it was okay, but you might as well just put the paint on your jelly plate directly. So this is just a transparency. I just wanted to ink my roller up or paint my roller up and then put it on, hoping for a more transparent look. But the paint is so transparent, and if you just shouldn't put too much paint on there. And I put some leaves I just cut them from plain paper, and I'm just putting them down. And now I'm just going to put the yellow paint over them and print that. Which is cool because in the end, I used some of the leaves, the yellow leaves, on my actual cards. And that's beautiful. Some of my favorite leaves were the ones that came off that jelly plate that's yellow. So, again, I like the graphic look. It reminds me so much of printmaking when I was studying art at the University of Pretoria back in the 90s. So I decided in the end just to put it on my plate itself, and then I'm just going to roll it up. I did link the jelly plate in my description, so you can go to Amazon and just have a look at it and maybe read up. Like I said, I used the 8x10. I wanted a big size because I probably, I'm lazy. I wanted to all it in one swoop. So there you go. So now I'm just going to print it again. Just remove all the illustrations so it doesn't get full of paint, which it did, but that's fine. You know what I like about the jelly plate is that it's squishy. It's really squishy, like jelly. That's why it's called the jelly plate, people. And so it presses into the paper where transparency can't go into the paper. And even if you have like a little bit of I use these, some stencils with thick paper, or mask, it prints around it, which is amazing. And that's why I like the jelly plate. It's easy to print with. I'm loving what's happening on the page. You can see all the mark making, all the layers, and I'm just really liking what's happening there a lot. And now I took out my favorite stencil. I think this is by far my absolute favorite stencil by Tim Holtz, and I'm using that beautiful turquoise paint. And I'm just going to just see, can I print with a stencil? So we'll figure that out in a moment. So I'm just rolling the paint, and now I'm just going to put my stencil on there, and then I'm going to print. put it on my paper. Let's see. So I'm putting my jelly plate down with the stencil, putting the paper over it. And now I'm just going to squeeze it or rub it down and see what it's going to happen. I have no idea. And voila, it made a beautiful print. Not perfect, but I think my stencil is very old, you know, but you can see already it's really pretty. And I think, you know, so there's so much you can do. I think your options is unlimited with this jelly plate, and I think it will work great in books that is uneven and thick, and I think the jelly plate will print because its ability to mold, and that's the thing. Okay, please do not play a drinking game every time I say I think, because then you'll run into trouble. So now I'm using this beautiful blue paint, and I'm just going to put it on the stencil, which is on the jelly plate, and I'm going to use my roller, and I'm going to see if I can roll the paint through the stencil and what happens then. So I just wanted to try everything. So now I put it off, and look at that. That's perfect, right? And I'm just going to do a printing of that, the pluses on my background. So this worked great, and I like the paint and I like the color, you know. And now I'm just going to do it again, just repositioning the stencil to cover the pluses that's already on there as best as I can. And then I'm just going to roll more paint through it and just do another print because I want it to be on the other side of my background as well. So this works great. Okay, so I will definitely do this again. And then you can just take it off and then just paint and print it however you want to. Just getting things out of the way. And you can see there's a white paper underneath my page so that if I make a mess, it's not the end of the world. And I'm going to just print it again and see. Even if it's just faint, I just wanted that texture on there. And it worked awesome. Awesome. So I'm so happy. I'm loving the way that this is coming together. So when I do art journaling, I'm always so afraid that I overdo it. But with this one, I'm like, I'm just going to keep on layering and see what happens. So I'm putting down my stencil that you can download for free on iHeart Studio. And I am just going to use some spray paint and just spray. I actually just spritz. So that's what I call it. I don't spray. I just spritz here and there. I just wanted to get some texture on there. And I'm going to do it again in the middle because these are going to be 18 different cards. And again, and this time I'm just going to switch to white paint and just going to see what happens if I spray with white paint. And then I'm going to let it dry and figure out my next step. So I think after this, I decided this is enough for one day. Well, not for one day, for the monoprinting part of it. So once this was dry, I thought maybe I can monoprint with ink, but I'll do that. I'll try that again. But for now, what I want to do is just cut them up. So I need 3 by 4 cards. So I'm cutting them 3 inches and by 4 inches. And that's the size that I wanted to make. So this is 4 inches. And you can see I'm just using my trimmer and I'm just quickly cutting them. And then I got lazy and I stacked them 2 by 2 because I know my trimmer can cut 2 by 2. 2 pages at a time. That's the limit. So there you go. So now when I open them up, I thought, you know what, they're too green because I want to use green leaves on them and they are just too green. So I brought out a big page. I'll show you in a little bit. But let me just put them out and see. So when you mix them up so that they are out of order, then you really get to see how pretty everything is. And every little card is like a little artwork. And that's something that I love because I always teach when I do art journaling that every bit of your art journal page should be a little artwork in itself. So isn't that nice? So now I'm just taking the back of a big, like an old paper pad, using a little bit of adhesive spray, and I'm just going to stick them all together. Not stick, but just put them together like that on this background. And I'm just going to quickly paint them with blue paint because they are a little bit too green for me, and that's fine. So I'm just going to give them a wash with acrylic ink, and I'm using Prussian blue. And this really, really worked great. I just absolutely loved the idea. So I'm just putting a thin line of acrylic ink down using a big flat brush, and I'm just going to wash over it and just put a little blue back because it's a little bit too green, and if I put green leaves on there, it's going to disappear. So a very wet brush, and I'm just going to spread the Prussian blue over all the cards. And I want to use very distinctive paint marks. I don't want to be too careful, you know. Again, it's about mark making. Everything is about mark making to me. And I just wanted to, maybe just wipe here and there because, and that bit of blue really made a difference for me. I just absolutely love it. And now I'm just going to put a tiny bit at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing. With a wet brush, just going to paint it. And then wipe it away. So I just want a little bit of this whole background to be a little bit more cool. So that when I put my green leaves on there, it shows up. It doesn't disappear. You know what I mean? So that was my thinking with that. And now you just want to let this dry, and then we'll start just putting everything together. Right, so once this is dry, I'm going to use the exact same stencil, and now I'm going to use white molding paste, and I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to every card. And so you'll see what I'm going to do. I'm just going to spread it here and there through the stencil. But now I have a better idea of the cards, so I can see which ones didn't get any and which ones did get, and that's exactly what I want. Even if it's just a little bit on every card, that's just what I want. This is just texture. So, and I'm spreading it very thin, so I am actually putting it on and then just putting it off again. That one just didn't get any, so I'm just putting some on that one, putting it back, and then I'm just going to do the last one as well, the last few. So just here and there, and I'm just taking it off so it's super thin. And for me, again, it's not about the words and to be able to understand or read it. It's just texture. I love it. I love it. So I'm just cleaning my stencil. And this shows you how many times you can actually use a paper stencil if you just care for it really well. Like, I only use spray paint and molding paste on my stencils, not too much wet paint, and it really lasts a long time. And now, once this is dry, we are going to add our embellishments that you can see at the top of my screen. So this is a lot of fun. Okay. So here's the cards. I've switched them up again, and how beautiful are those backgrounds. And now I'm just going to place a leaf on everyone, and a feather and a little bird. I did use some hot glue just to glue everything down. Just a little bit of hot glue. Just make sure you don't burn yourself. Don't ask me how I know that. Refer back to point number 1. Okay, and then I'm going to use the stencil that I made for this artist trading video that you can, it's part of the downloads, and I'm just going to spray paint with white through on every card. So I figured it out fairly quickly to put them together and then just use the stencil on, you know, that little part where they overlap, or not overlap, but where they come together, and then just spritz a few dots of white paint through there, and you can see how lovely this looks. This was my favorite part of making these artist trading cards. So I'll do that so that there's a little bit of patterns and mark making on every card. So one thing that I was thinking afterwards is you can put your name on the back and use them as actual artist trading cards. You can use these as embellishments on scrapbook pages. You can, what I want to do, I want to frame them in a little, just with a little bit bigger frame of white, and maybe use them on cards, you know, because I'm always looking for cards to use for birthdays, or, you know, thank you or whatever, you know. So that's just one way of using these little artist trading cards. You can see how fun those marks are. Some are big, some are small, you know. So I'm just putting together, turning them around, and then just figuring out what I want to use, and then I'm just going to spray a few marks through the stencil on the little card. So I'm using the backs of 2 paintbrushes to hold the stencil down so I don't get my hands dirty, which is exercise in futility because by now all my fingers are marked up. So that's just so much fun to do, and this is just a little final touch, you know. And so my goal was to have a few marks on every little card, whether it's a few or a lot, doesn't matter. And I just love this process. Ideally, you should be doing it outside because spray paint does have a very distinctive odor, but of course I didn't want to carry all my video equipment and everything outside, so I'm like, we'll just tough it out here and enjoy the free trip. So I used my Silhouette Cameo, and I cut the stencil with from watercolor paper. I did a double cut, and it worked brilliantly. Honestly, I just absolutely love it, and I've used it so many times, the stencils that I've cut from watercolor paper, so I'm never sorry, you know. And even with this one, I used a new mat, so the cleanup was so easy and quick. I didn't have a lot of debris to clean up, so that is not a problem at all. Here you can see how I'm putting them together just to get a few marks on them, using the paint brushes to hold down the stencil and just spritzing with a little bit of white spray paint, and voila. So some are vertical, some are horizontal, and just absolutely loving it. You can add some words now. You can use little phrases. Those by Tim Holtz is perfect. And, you know, so you can stamp dates, you can stamp words on there, you can write on there. So there's so much that you can do with these little cards. But most of all, the process of creating them was the absolute best, and it was the funnest, most fun I've had. Funnest. English is my second language, people. It's the most fun I've had, like, of all the creations that I've done during the COVID self-isolation, was these little cards. Like, honestly, so much fun. So for this one, I used just one of the white plain leaves, and now I'm just drawing in, and this reminds me so much of Jen Jockish, and she used to do this on her scrapbook pages. So while I was doing it, I'm like, Jen, if you're ever watching one of my videos, then just know that I thought of you when I did this. And actually when I did it, I'm like, oh, I should have used more white cut files or leaves. That would have been a beautiful touch, you know. So you can actually go back and draw on your leaves and just make it a little bit more prominent, but that's fine. I like the variation of the leaves that I used as masks. Now they are actual leaves, and those are the yellow ones, and they just look beautiful. So these 18 little artist trading cards have a very special place in my heart, and I think they turned out pretty good, right? I don't know, maybe you hate them. I don't mind. I don't care. And I just love them, and I'm very excited to place them and make them into actual cards. I'll probably just frame them or with a mount that is slightly bigger, and then they can be the most beautiful little things, or you can use them for anything. And yeah, so there they're all together. How fun is that? Honestly, even I was like, for a newbie using a jelly plate, I think I'll give myself like a solid 5 out of 10. So here you can see a close-up, and I'm just going to focus, and there's so much going on the page, and it's layer on layer on layer, and I just love it. Here you can see one of the cards and my dirty fingers, so it's proof that it was actually me that did it, and just so fun. So thank you for watching with me. Thank you for hanging out with me, with chatting with me. I'm very excited to carry on this creative journey. I would love to see it if you were to embark on making these little cards with me. Please show me. And I just want to bless you and thank you for hanging out, having a few laughs with me today as I'm attempting this new thing. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend, and see you on the interweb soon. Bye.